Watch. Salve.
I'm back at Pompeii and Herculaneum, the cities that were buried by the volcano Vesuvius. Last week, I showed you what the shops and streets were like, and today I'd like to show you around some of the houses, like this one. A house like this gives you a very good idea of how the poorer people lived. It's still in very good condition. In fact, it's hardly changed at all since the volcano erupted and it was buried in mud and ash. The rooms are very dark, with very few windows. So the people used to use lamps a lot. Oil lamps, like this one. Now, I want to show you one of the grander houses. It's number 5, Stabian Road. I think that's this way.
I think we're getting close. Yes, this is it.
When you go in the front door, one of the first things you notice is this picture on the floor. Cave Carnum. That means beware of the dog. The Roman people didn't really have a police force, so the ordinary people had to take great care of their property. And many of the houses had guard dogs, like this one. As you can see, he's chained up with a collar around his neck. And he's barking his head off. He looks fierce, doesn't he? I'm jolly glad he's not still around. In we go.
Roman houses had very attractive gardens with a covered walkway round the outside to give people shade in the hot weather.
Here's a model of the house I'd like to show you. One thing you notice is there's a hole in the roof. That's to let the light in and also to let the rain in. The water collects in this little pool down here, and then pipes take the water off to the well. And here's something else I'd like to show you. Do you see the wall decorations? They don't have wallpaper, they would paint straight onto the walls. And look, there's a wall painting on the wall behind me. The Romans also decorated their floors. Pompeii was a seaside town and the people were very fond of sea creatures. There's a fish there. And can you guess what this is? It's a crab. This sort of decoration was called a mosaic. In Britain today we cover our floors with carpets, don't we? But in the Roman times they used to use a lot of this stone mosaic work to cover the floors.
Sometimes the mosaic showed Roman gods. Sometimes it was someone famous from history. Sometimes it was animals, like these birds having a drink from a bowl. Or the famous she-wolf with little Romulus and Remus underneath her. And sometimes the mosaic showed portraits of real people.
Mosaics are not like ordinary paintings. You might have noticed all these lines all over the picture. Well, that's because a mosaic is made up of lots and lots of tiny bits of coloured stone. Here in Sire & Sisters Museum, they've recreated a mosaic maker's workshop. This is a kind of person who would have made them, and these are the kind of tools that he would have used. Right, let's have a go. There's my chisel and my mallet. Now we try and cut off a nice square piece. Here we go. Oh, well, that's not bad, but it's still a bit big. Let's have another go. That's quite good. A couple of nice pieces there. So that's what he would do. He'd carry on cutting up bits of stones, and then he'd lay them out on a flat surface covered in cement. Now that's a bit difficult for you to do, but you could easily make paper mosaics by using little bits of coloured paper and gumming them down onto a card. You could make a pattern like this, or you could make a mosaic picture. I've done one of a volcano. I've just got to add a little bit of lava. Just there. That's it. And there. There we are. That's not bad. Real mosaics are made of stone, and stone feels cold when you touch it. So in the winter, that wouldn't have been very comfortable. Now, what did the Romans do about it? Well, I'll show you. Over in this part of the museum, they have another section of floor which they've cut away at the sides so that we can see what happens underneath. Now then, as you can see, the floor is supported on these pillars. That makes a space, and the Romans used to fill this space with hot air. This is one room where they wouldn't have needed any underfloor heating. This is the kitchen. Of course, they didn't have any gas or electricity, but just down here, they would have put a fire, and that would provide the heat for the oven. Now, the poor Romans mostly ate a sort of porridge. Well, that was all they could afford. But the rich Romans used to eat lots of different kinds of foods. And here are some of the things that the Roman cooks brought over to Britain. Here we have some celery, plums, cabbage, turnips, carrots, apples, and walnuts. Here's something else the Romans brought over to Britain. How would you fancy some snails for lunch? Just look at the size of them. They're enormous, aren't they? And that's just the way the Romans liked them. Great giant snails. Well, I better be going now, because the teacher is teaching his children how to behave at a banquet, and I've been invited along as well, and I've got to get dressed up.
Right foot. Right foot.
How do I look? A proper Roman?
Right foot.
Ah, thank you very much. It was thought to be very unlucky to step across the threshold with your left foot. So they always positioned a slave next to the door to remind each guest to step across with the right foot.
Oh, good evening, James.
Good evening.
Find yourself a place, you're most welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Ah, where's my slave? There he is. Hello. When each guest arrived, a slave would remove their sandals. The Romans had lots of slaves to do all their dirty jobs for them. It was great fun being a rich Roman, but if you were a slave, life wasn't so nice.
Bring in more food, please. And see that the goblets are filled up. I'm sure James likes a bit of wine sometimes.
Yes, I quite like the odd glass, Quintus. I tell you something, this is the first time I've had a meal lying down.
Now then, children, use your right hands, remember, and no grabbing, Livia.
Why the skeleton, Quintus? Is that traditional, customary?
Oh, yes, we usually have one painted on the floor or on the wall. It helps to remind people that they're not on this earth forever.
Helps to sharpen the appetite for the food, eh?
Yeah, that's quite right. Helps you to enjoy it. Not that these children need much assistance.
I don't suppose they do. That's a lovely spread.
You enjoying it?
Lovely.
Yeah, well, tuck in. Keep going.
What have you got? Bananas?
Do you like that red? That big red
Try
thing,
plum,
like a
I
red
think.
melon. It's a watermelon.
Yeah, you know
The more tickles your ears when you eat it. Now then, children, I've got a poem for you.
Poems are boring, sir.
Not this one, boy. It's by Horace, one of our most famous poets. And it's about two mice, a town mouse and a country mouse. The story that I have to tell concerns two mice who got on well. But one mouse had a house in Rome, the other had a country home, and thus they seldom met to play because they lived so far away. But then one summer, Country Mouse invited Town Mouse to his house. The Town Mouse came. His friendly host asked him what he'd like the most. "I've kept," he said, "some peas for you, a raisin and an oat or two. I know it's only country stuff, but here we have to live it rough." Now Town Mouse could not quite conceal his disappointment at the meal. "Why," he said, "why live like this? Oh, please don't take my words amiss. But Rome is much more civilized. See for yourself, you'd be surprised. Besides, my friend, I think you should try out my line in city food. To Rome it is but 20 mile, and there we entertain in style. Try peacock in the basket, yum, and sausage served with sugar plum." "All right," said Country Mouse, "I'll come." And so they left his plain abode and scampered down the moonlit road, which led, as all roads do, to Rome and to the city mouse's home, the mansion of a millionaire. "By Jove," he said, "you live in there?" "I do indeed," his friend replied, and led the Country Mouse inside. Town Mouse asked him to recline on cushions while he fetched some wine, together with snails, oysters, and such. Delicious tidbits, far too much for Country Mouse's little tum. And yet he tackled every crumb. "This is the life, my friend," he said. And when they both had drunk and fed, the Town Mouse said he'd take the chance to demonstrate the latest dance. Then, suddenly an awful crash, and through the open doors there dash enormous dogs with gaping jaws and snapping teeth and tearing claws. The whole place echoes with the sound. The mice rush squeaking round and round, then dodge outside and climb a wall and sit there feeling very small. Their gasping lungs are fit to burst. They had escaped, but only just. Then Country Mouse set off for home. "I've had enough," he said, "of Rome. I'll settle for a simple diet. All I want is peace and quiet." And so each friend from friend was parted, and neither mouse was broken-hearted. Did you like that?
Very good.
Fill up there, goblets. More wine, James.
Thank you very much, I will. It's lovely. Thank you.
Varley, now it's someone else's turn to give us a story. Who's next? What about you, Marcus? Now, come on then. Somebody else.
There's a volunteer.
Lucius, good for you.